You know the feeling, right? That sudden, white-hot flash of anger or a wave of sadness that just pulls you under. I mean, these feelings are so powerful, so completely overwhelming, that they feel like, well, like they are us. But what if they're not? What if that's been the wrong way to look at it this whole time? I want you to consider a wild idea for a second. What if that intense emotion, that anger, was nothing more than a system alert? Just an impersonal little piece of data that flashes across your internal screen and then disappears. I know it sounds simple, but this shift in perspective is a total game changer. And it's actually rooted in a very old, very powerful idea that we're about to unpack. So let's talk about when feelings take over. You know what I'm talking about, that feeling of being completely hijacked by an emotion. It's almost like a glitch in your internal operating system, isn't it? One program suddenly starts eating up all the processing power, and then everything else just crashes. But what if we could debug that system? Well, the fix for this so-called glitch comes from a piece of ancient code. It's a Pali term, Vedanānupassanā. Okay, I know that's a mouthful, it sounds super complex, but stick with me here, because when we break it down, it reveals this brilliantly simple technique for managing our own internal world. All right, let's break this word down. The first part is Vedana. Now, this is not the complicated story of, I am angry because he said this and she did that. No, it's the raw, immediate signal itself. Think of it more like a physical vibration, that first little flicker of a reaction in your mind. It's just pure, unfiltered data before we attach any judgment to it. Next up, we have anu. This just means to follow closely, to track something along its natural flow. Imagine you're watching a river, or maybe tracing a line on a graph as it moves up and down. You're not trying to change its direction, you're not judging the line for going down, you're simply following it. And the final piece of the puzzle is pasana, and this is the act of clear, objective observation. This is where you put on your mental lab coat. It's about taking on the perspective of a scientist looking at data through a microscope. You're not the experiment, you're just the observer, monitoring what's there without getting all tangled up in the outcome. So when we put it all together, Vedanānupassanā, it is not a command to feel your feelings more intensely. It's actually a completely different instruction. It's about monitoring the mind's raw reaction signals in real time, just as they are. This is the big shift, you guys. It moves us from being a victim of our feelings to becoming an analyst of the data. Okay, so that's the theory. But how do we actually do this? Let's try to translate this ancient code into a modern user interface. I want you to think of your mind as having a kind of dashboard. And we're about to explore 4 really powerful metaphors that'll help you learn to read its signals. First up, the smartphone status bar. Seriously, think about it. When your phone's battery icon turns red, you don't think, oh no, my phone is a failure, or my phone is so angry at me. That's ridiculous, right? You just see it for what it is. Information. Warning, energy is low. An unpleasant feeling of Vedana is just that. It's a flashing red light on your internal dashboard. It's not you, it's just data. Our second metaphor is the oscilloscope. You know, that machine in science movies with the squiggly lines on the screen? It just shows electrical signals as waveforms. So a pleasant feeling might be a high-frequency wave, and an unpleasant one, a low-frequency wave. But here's the key. You are not the wave. You are the technician watching the patterns on the screen, just noticing their shape and how long they last, without becoming the signal itself. All right, now picture yourself in a giant server room. It's humming with computers, and suddenly a little red warning light starts flashing on one of the servers. Now, a good technician doesn't get mad and smash the light, do they? Of course not. The light isn't the problem. It's a super helpful signal pointing to the problem. In the exact same way, that rising feeling of irritation is just a neutral sensor. It's telling you, hey, maybe it's time to check on the internal cooling system. And for our fourth metaphor, let's head to the trading floor with a stocks chart. Think about it. A professional trader doesn't have a total meltdown with every single tick up or tick down. No way. They observe the constant flow of data to understand the bigger pattern. And this is exactly how we can learn to watch our own feelings, observing their little fluctuations without getting swept away by every single one. So these are some cool metaphors, but why is this system upgrade so critical? Well, because it directly intercepts the automatic process that leads to craving and aversion. This endless cycle of wanting things and pushing things away. It actually has a name, tanha. You can think of it as a kind of addiction. And this practice, this is how we break that cycle, how we move from a blind reaction to a conscious response. So here's how the chain reaction usually works, right? We're on autopilot. First, a raw signal, a Vedana, arises. Then, almost instantly, and I mean in a split second, we slap an I label on it. I am sad. I am anxious. The moment we identify with it, craving or aversion kicks in. We either want more of that good feeling or we desperately want the bad one to just stop. And that, my friends, is the start of the whole addiction loop. But this is the crucial intervention point. This is where we change the game. Vedanānupassanā is like an emergency brake. It slams on right in that tiny, tiny gap between the raw signal appearing and our mind automatically labeling it as me or mine. By just observing the signal as pure data, we create a little bit of space. And believe me, in that space, that's where we find our freedom. So when you start to practice this, something really amazing starts to happen. That thing that felt like a system-crashing glitch, that feeling that just took over everything, it starts to show itself for what it really is, an incredibly sophisticated and useful feature of your internal operating system. It was never a bug to begin with. And I absolutely love how the source material for this explainer puts it. It says, the feeling is no longer a monster that torments you. Instead, it becomes a simple pop-up notification that briefly appears, delivers its information, and then it just disappears. You don't have to become the pop-up ad. You can just close the window. So the next time a powerful emotion shows up, that flash of anger, a pang of jealousy, or even a huge surge of joy, I want you to remember this. A new notification has just appeared on your internal screen. Are you going to automatically click on it and let that program run you? Or are you going to pause, simply read the data it's showing you, and then choose how you want to respond?